The Iowa Caucus. Okay, so let's get into this. What was driving me nuts about the Iowa Caucus and what I was hearing in every single channel I was listening to, it seemed like there was a narrative that was playing over and over and over and over again. I don't know why, but it didn't matter whether I was watching, Crystal Ball on the Rising, Kyle Kalinske, anybody. All I kept hearing time and time again, and I can't remember how many times I heard this, but I noticed this narrative. The Iowa caucuses and caucuses in general are antiquated, undemocratic, whatever, what have you. Just basically just ridicule and a lot of problems around the Iowa caucus. And I was just like, why? What is going on here? So I thought to myself and I said, bingo, this is what's going on here. The reason the Iowa caucuses are performing and doing the way that they are is because this is what the DNC intended. The DNC knows that a caucus system is much better, and of course, my opinion is much better than a primary in any state. So, all these other people out there saying, oh, primaries are better. Primaries, I'm going to go into. We're gonna talk about caucuses. We're going to break this down, and we're just going to go into a lot of detail here. So, let's start with, are caucuses perfect? No, I'm not. I'm not trying to say caucuses are perfect. I'm not trying to, say that they're the penultimate design. No, absolutely not. And the caucus and everything can always be improved. It can be continuously improved. So, it is not the end all be all. But I would prefer a caucus over a primary anytime. Anytime. So let's just go into it. No, why are the reasons is our caucus are better? Why? What's the pros? What's the cons? Number one, the primary thing we're talking about. Number one, caucuses are hard to rig. Caucuses are hard for a Republican or a Democrat, the DNC, whoever it is, to rig. Why is it hard to rig? Because everybody is in the room voting together and it's a public matter. So everybody can see, hey, all these people over here are gathered together to vote for Bernie. Hey, those people over there, they're gathered together and going for Pete. Everybody can kind of see what's happening. So to rig it, you would have to have one of those little mind erasing things from Men in Black and be like, pew, 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 pew. Pete won. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very hard to rig. That's why the DNC tried to eliminate as many caucuses as possible so that they could go to easily rigged primaries. Because primaries are super easy to rig. Votes go into a hidden black box, unpublic, and then results pop out. And if those results are different than what the input was, how do you know? You don't. You absolutely don't. And they've really shut down any kind of things that might point to irregularities within those votes. So when we're talking about exit polls and things like that, they've really clamped down on that because we saw in 2016 exit polls showing huge discrepancies between what was going in and what they were saying and what they were saying on the exit polls, and that is a huge red light saying, hey, something's going on here, and they didn't want that out there. So they wanted to eliminate these caucuses because they're much harder to rig. Another reason that a caucus is superior is because not only because it's harder to rig, because that public vote. Some people might say that the public vote is a negative, and I could see that. But I want to vote, and I want to have my own opinion. I want it to be private to myself. But to me, in particular, I think that having a public vote is far, far superior than having a private vote. Why? Because you have to be in support of your position. So raise your hand and say, I'm voting for this person. I'm going to stand over here with this group and I'm going to vote with them. You have to have a reasoning to do it, and you have to feel good about what you're doing. If you're ashamed of your vote, that is a real indicator. If I'm afraid to say how I voted in public, that means that I think that my vote's kind of shady. I don't support what I did, and I wouldn't tell anybody what I did because I need to hide it. So I think that publicly voting far superior. You have to put what you're doing out there, and everybody can see what you're doing. And it is critical to ensure that the voting process is fair and that it's not rigged, because we have to have some kind of openness and transparency to what's going on in these elections. Otherwise, you can never trust the results. Um, that's the only reason why we found out what happened in Black Hawk County, because we had the guy, he released the numbers, other people knew what the numbers were, and then when they come out with the fake numbers and they take Bernie votes and they give them to other minority candidates way down on the sheet, who did they give it to? They gave it to Duval, Patrick Duval. So having that publicness makes it so much better. Then when we said, hey, this result you put out doesn't match what we had here on this count for Black Hawk County, they're like, oh, I guess we got to fix the numbers. Hold on a second. And you can see how hard it is to rig, because over a week later, they want this to rig the result, but they can't do it. So it's basically just can't put out a result. A primary, you can open up the polls, close the polls, rig the results, and have the output done in an hour, because you're using CPU power to crunch the numbers and get everything done. You're using a machine, and it's fast, quick, and simple to rig the election. So caucus is a big problem. So not only is that the only benefit for the public vote, but there's additional benefits. So I would say number three, well, with the public vote, everyone can see and know the results. But number three, it informs voters. Because when people make a vote and then they get a chance to shift their vote, people can make an argument for a candidate. So if you're somebody who's not politically informed, you can go out there and say, oh, why are these people all standing with Bernie? I haven't heard much about it. I'm busy. I'm working. I'm a single mom. I got 3 kids. I don't have time to be watching political news or YouTube channels and stuff all day long. They don't understand. So when you have a chance for somebody to go out there and inform a person, very much superior to a primary, because who's informing you during a primary? You just walk in, you cast your vote the way you thought, and you're out. There's nobody swaying your opinions. They're not allowed to sway your opinions. They're not allowed to have political signs within, X number of yards. Sorry about that. I had to cut the camera, so making the dog started barking. So I'm going to try to get back on track. Where we're at, the caucus informs voters. So, like I said, somebody goes to caucus, they can hear arguments for candidates, and people can be persuaded by people who are passionate about the candidate, and they can be swayed and routed into somebody like, oh, I didn't know that Bernie was for Medicare for all. I didn't know Bernie was about $15 minimum wage. I didn't know that Bernie was going to eliminate college debt, medical debt, etc., etc., etc. The more I hear you talk about it, the more you just got my vote. So it informs them. And that goes right from number 3 to number 4. Number 4, grassroots. The DNC hates that grassroots campaigns are very effective when it comes to a caucus. And for the reason I just mentioned and some of the previous reasons, you can sway voters. People can see how passionate you are. When you go to this event and you can see a swarm of people around a candidate that they support, that is huge. You can see a groundswell, a momentum of people who are all staying together to vote for this person. So they don't want that at the DNC. They don't want you to be in a public arena or a public gymnasium or a cafeteria or wherever it is, a library, and see all these people that have passion and just tons of support, because there's so many people standing behind that person when it comes to raising their hand and voting for them. That can sway other people into it. So not only does it inform them, it can sway them into it through just the masses of people there. Or if they just say, hey, I was going to vote for this guy, but look at all these people standing over here for Bernie. It can make them question themselves and just begin the questioning process. So, yes, caucuses are extremely superior for a candidate as any kind of grassroots upswelling, because when it comes time there, it's very public and in your face that this person is gaining a lot of support. Number 5. So let's go straight to number 5. Why else are caucuses superior? Because when you're standing there and you're voting with everybody else for a candidate you support, you see other people all around you that also support the candidate. So it builds a community or a network of people because they can come together and say, hey, you support Bernie too? Hey, let's meet. Let's set up some canvassing in the future or something, or phone calling for getting involved with other states down the line, or just even a support network. When it comes time to the general, you guys can all band together and hit the streets together, to sway other people for your votes. Building a community is another huge advantage. Are you going to build a community at a primary? No, you show up, you cast your vote, you're gone. You don't see anybody else, and you don't know who's on your team. Community is built from a caucus, potentially. I'm saying that's always the way it shakes out, but that's the potential there. It's huge. You don't get any of these benefits I've noted so far from a primary. Nothing. Nada. Zip. Nothing. And now, here's the ultimate kick in the pants when we're talking about number 6, the 6th reason why a caucus is awesome. Everybody out there is talking about, I want ranked choice voting. Even Kyle Kalinski's, I want ranked choice voting. And the same, it was almost amazing. In the same sentence where he said, caucuses are antiquated, they're undemocratic, blah, 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 blah. What do we need? We need ranked choice voting. It was like almost in the next sentence. I almost put together a whole clip of people just saying primaries are antiquated, primaries are terrible, caucuses are antiquated, caucuses are terrible, blah, 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 blah. Just a whole line because everybody was saying it. It was universal. Universal. It didn't matter if they were progressive, not progressive, on mainstream media, on YouTube. It didn't matter. Everybody was saying it. But then it was funny when Kyle Kalinski said it, because then the next sentence he said, but I want ranked choice voting. The silliness of that is that a caucus is a form of ranked choice voting. So if you want ranked choice voting, you want to go toward the caucus direction, because what happens in a caucus? In a caucus, you go in, you have to choose who you want to vote for, and then you get with that group and you vote together as a group, and they count how many people are voting for this individual and how many people are voting for that individual. If your person doesn't get whatever the cutoff is, and I do believe in Iowa is 15%, if they don't get the 15%, that's when your ranked choice voting kicks in, because then you can vote for your second candidate. So for me, for example, if I wanted to go and let's say vote for Tulsi, I want to vote for Tulsi, but I don't want to also throw my vote away in support for somebody like Bernie who would need it, right? So I can go in and I can show my support for Tulsi. I can advocate for Tulsi. And then if she doesn't get 15%, I just mosey on over and advocate for Bernie. It's ranked choice voting. You get to vote for one person. If they don't get enough, it goes to the next person. Now, it's not multiple tiered where, if that person then doesn't get the next, then you go down to your next one. I believe it's a 2-tier ranked choice voting, but it's the beginning of ranked choice voting. So if you're for ranked choice voting, you should be for a caucus, because you have all the other benefits that I already mentioned, plus you have the beginning of ranked choice. You could change the rules where you could have a 3rd round, a 4th round. You could do whatever you want. I'm not saying that having 2 rounds is a great idea. I'm just saying I also agree that ranked choice voting is good, but I recognize that a caucus is a form of ranked choice voting and is more in alignment with what I'm looking for than a dumb primary, without any kind of ranked choice voting at all. And I don't want that primary because of everything we said. So, going round circle to everything we just talked about, hard to rig. You have to voice your vote publicly. It informs people. It helps grassroots campaigns. It allows for the establishment of community. You have semi-ranked choice voting, I'm going to go to number 7. Number 7 is the same as number 1. Number 7 is the same as number 1. It's hard to rig. We need systems that are hard to rig, that are open, that we can see the results for. Everybody should be pushing out those results. Like, hey, this came from the caucus. This is what I got. Tweet it out. Hey, it just came from this caucus. Tweet it out, tweet it out, tweet it out, tweet it out. Write down, everybody should be writing down the numbers on their own hand. Okay, first round for Bernie here, we had, 185 or whatever. This is what they got. And then tweet it out. And then you can put these things out. We need this thing to be as open and transparent as possible. We need more caucuses. Bernie did extremely well in 2016 in caucuses. The DNC knew he did well in caucuses. They knew it, and they wanted to eliminate it for all the reasons I was talking about. Grassroots, informing people, swaying people through large numbers, all those things. They didn't like any of that. They would try to get rid of as much as possible. So we weren't able to get rid of all of them. What we got to do? Make them look terrible. We want all the caucuses gone. We don't want a caucus leading off the shebang with the first vote. That could mean grassroots movements and massively supported public movements could get a foothold. This is why they did what they did. And you're like, oh, this is conspiracy. We do not know this. We do not know this. The DNC? How could they be involved? How could the DNC be involved? Well, I hear you. I think you're completely wrong if you're saying that, but I hear you. Let's just go ahead and let's look over here. Documents reveal DNC was intimately involved in the development of troubled Iowa Caucus app. And just like every single one of my videos, every single thing I'm going to show you is going to be down in the description. So you get links so you can get to it all. You probably want to print it off. You probably want to save it because who knows how long these things stay out there and then try to get eliminated when they're found out. So whatever. Go out there. Look at any of these things I'm showing you. Let's go ahead and look at it. Let's look at it a little closer, shall we? Documents reveal DNC was intimately involved, right? Of course it was. It wanted these things to fail. It established a shadow app. The shadow app crashed. They wanted to get rid of the caucuses. They made sure by getting involved with the run-up of the app to make sure it happened. Now I'll just let you know, there's 2 pages for this. There's also one where they have kind of like a short video. I don't want to play their whole video because, I don't want to have any kind of copyright strike takedown type thing. So I'm not going to play it. This all came out of Yahoo News, but I would encourage you to go check that out. We even have the DNC's contract with Shadow. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through it, so if you want to pause it and look at it, I will, of course, be putting links in the description. But here's the Shadow contract, the Master Services Agreement between the DNC, or maybe I think the DNC was definitely involved. But I'm just going to kind of scroll through this. I'm not going to be going through this whole document, but if I encourage you, I will leave a link out there if you want to read through every single page of this 14 pages for this document. Absolutely. But I'm telling you, the DNC wanted to put out a narrative that caucuses are terrible, caucuses are antiquated, we need to get rid of caucuses. Do not fall for that. Caucuses are not terrible. Caucuses are the opposite of terrible. When the app went down, why didn't the phone system work that they've used for years? There's been foul play at foot. So that is this particular part of the article, or this is the actual contract. Here's an email between the DNC, the DNC Service Corporation, Democratic National Committee, and the Shadow app. I mean, if we go down here and we just kind of like highlight a couple parts of this, a couple parts of this article. Consultant agrees to work with DNC Services Corporation Democratic National Committee on an ongoing basis as a consultant develops the software the contract reads. And if they have the contract actually here in the article as well. But the Democratic National Convention, the DNC, the people who we know for a fact rigged the primary against Bernie in 2016, they've been doing this for years, decades. They know how this game works. They know what kind of narratives to push. They know what they have to do to continue pushing. They know how to push their corporate candidates out there, and they're going to do it. And they're going to put their thumb on the scale for those candidates every way possible. And I'm going to be making more videos. So I'm going to make an overall video, so I'm not getting detail into what I'm going to be doing with this channel. I'm going to be doing a lot. I hope you subscribe. I hope you like. I hope you continue to watch these videos. We're going to go into a lot more detail of what happens, and I'm going to not only just preach to the choir and tell you things, I'm going to help inform you, because I'm going to bring you all the documents and things you need to bring yourself to a better understanding of what's going on in the political atmosphere and the political environment today. So I appreciate you watching the channel. If you liked it, go ahead, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to get a hold of me, politicalmastermind79@gmail.com. So I appreciate it. Thanks, and hopefully see you around real soon. Auf Wiedersehen.